Today we will have a discussion on the use of PUC19, an artificial plasmid vector. This PUC19 was discovered by Joachim Messing and his co-workers in the University of California, and P stands for plasmid, UC stands for University of California. So this is a circular double-stranded plasmid vector DNA which is 2686 base pairs long. And we will go to the various regions of the PUC19 vector. The most essential sequence of a vector, which is called as the ORI, which determines the origin of replication, which also determines the copy number of this plasmid inside a host cell. So ORI determines how many copies of this plasmid can be maintained inside the host cell, and we are linking our foreign DNA with this vector. So depending upon the copy number of the plasmid, our foreign DNA will also be copied into that much numbers. So that is very important. So ORI is the origin of replication of this plasmid. Then you have two genes shown here. One is an ampicillin resistance gene. It is an antibiotic resistance gene which is used as a marker. We will come to how it serves the marker purpose. Then you have another gene which is called as the LAC-Z- gene or LAC-Z-alpha gene, and it is associated with a polylinker sequence. So first of all, we go to what a polylinker is. Polylinker means it is in this region that all the restriction enzyme sites are present. This is unlike the PBr322 vector which we saw earlier. In PBr322, we could see that there are restriction sites for different types of restriction enzymes, but they are scattered throughout this vector. They are present at different regions. But in PUC19, all the restriction sites for all restriction enzymes are present together in this region. So we can say they are rather overlapping sequences. That means all the recognition sites of the restriction enzymes are seen as overlapping sequences. For example, the cutting sequence for the enzyme, the recognition sequence for the enzyme EcoR1 is GAATTC. The recognition sequences for SMA1 is CCCGGG. So the sequence here will be GAATTC CCGGG. That means the recognition site for EcoR1 is overlapping with the recognition site for the next enzyme SMA1. Like that, all the cutting sites are present in this one region together as overlapping sequences, and this is called as polylinker, which means that any foreign gene cut with the help of any restriction enzyme is going to be inserted in this region. Because suppose you have cut the foreign gene with EcoR1, you have to cut the vector with EcoR1. So the cut will be made here. Suppose you have isolated the foreign gene using the enzyme SMA1, and suppose this plasmid is having the cutting site for SMA1, it is also present here. So whatever be the enzyme you are using for cutting this vector, the cut will be made in this polylinker region because all the recognition sequences are present in this region itself. Now, the second thing is that the polylinker is actually a collection of recognition sites for various restriction enzymes which are present in an overlapping manner. But this polylinker sequence is within the reading frame of this gene which is called as the LAC-Z- or the LAC-Z-alpha gene, which means that any gene will have a sequence of itself, will have a unique sequence. So it is within the sequence of this gene that the polylinker is hidden. So the presence of polylinker inside this LAC-Z- gene doesn't cause any difference in its sequence. That means the polylinker is actually a part of the LAC-Z- gene. So the presence of polylinker is not affecting the functioning of the LAC-Z- gene. But suppose you are cutting this region, this polylinker with the enzyme EcoR1, And suppose you are inserting a foreign DNA in that region. Now what happens? The lag Z- gene's reading frame is interrupted by the insertion of foreign gene. Now it becomes inactive. That is what is called as insertional inactivation. Once again, if this vector is intact without the insertion of any foreign DNA, the lag Z- gene is active. But suppose it is cut with the restriction enzyme and suppose the foreign DNA is inserted within the vector, the activity of this gene will be lost. That is what is called as insertional inactivation. This is very important in screening because we want to know what ultimately we want to know. We want to know whether our foreign gene has entered into this vector. Then only our experiment will be successful. So, how do we screen it? If there is insertion of foreign gene, the lag Z- gene will get inactivated. If there is no foreign gene inserted, the lag Z- gene's activity will be intact. Now we will see how we will identify it or what are the phenotypic changes that we can see by inactivation of this lag Z- gene. So for that we have to go to the functions of this lag Z- gene. This lag Z- gene in PUC19, it contains information for a particular peptide which is called as alpha peptide. This alpha peptide is actually a part of the enzyme called as beta galactosidase. Beta galactosidase is an enzyme which is a part of lac operon in E. coli. In E. coli, there is a operon which is called as the lac operon, and one of the enzymes coded by this lac operon is beta galactosidase, which is involved in the metabolism of lactose. Beta galactosidase is very important in the metabolism of lactose. So this is a usual enzyme produced in E. coli, but this beta galactosidase enzyme is having two parts. One is called as the alpha peptide and the other is called as omega peptide. So we will go to alpha peptide first. I told you this lag Z- gene present in PUC19, it codes for the alpha peptide of the enzyme which is called as beta galactosidase. So, any cell which is having this PUC19 vector will have the ability to synthesize alpha peptide because this vector is having lag Z- gene and it confers the cell the ability to produce the peptide which is called as alpha peptide. So that is our vector. So our vector is having the lag Z- gene which is able to produce the alpha peptide fragment of beta galactosidase. Now we will come to the host cell which is usually used in an experiment where PUC19 is the vector. The host E. coli strain usually used in this experiment are mutant cells which have the ability to produce another peptide which is called as the omega peptide. So the host E. coli strains are mutant and they are able to produce the omega peptide part of beta galactosidase, but they cannot synthesize alpha peptide by their own. So the host cell is able to produce the omega peptide and the vector contains the gene for the production of alpha peptide. Now, neither this alpha peptide nor the omega peptide is functional by itself. They will become functional only if these two peptides combine together to form a functional hybrid enzyme, and this hybrid enzyme is called as the beta galactosidase. So, the omega peptide produced by the host cell will become functional beta galactosidase only if it combines with alpha peptide. And where is this alpha peptide present? Alpha peptide is produced by the lag Z- gene and the lag Z- gene is present with the vector. So, the activation of omega peptide by alpha peptide is called as alpha complementation. So, For the production of a functional beta galactosidase enzyme, both alpha peptide and omega peptide are necessary. So you imagine a host E. coli cell which produces the omega peptide. You are inserting this PUC19 vector into that host cell. So what will happen? Inside the host cell itself has the inherent ability to produce the omega peptide, and insertion of this PUC19 gives the cell the ability to produce alpha peptide also. So in this host E. coli cell which contains PUC19, there will be production of both omega peptide and alpha peptide, and thereby leading to the production of functional beta galactosidase enzyme. Now we move on to an experiment where you are using PUC19 as the vector. So here you have the foreign gene which is cut with EcoR1. So you cut the foreign gene with EcoR1, you have to cut the vector also with EcoR1. It is present here. Suppose it is cut here. The foreign gene is inserted here. So now what happens? Insertion of the foreign gene will lead to the inactivation of this LAC-Z- gene. So what happens? A host cell which has taken up this vector with the foreign gene will not have this LAC-Z- active because it is inactivated by the insertion of the foreign gene. That is why it is called as insertional inactivation. Now we will go on to the host cells. So you have a vector with the foreign gene inserted within LAC-Z-. So what happens? This vector with the foreign gene is entering into the E. coli cell. And this E. coli cell has the ability to produce omega peptide. The vector has got the gene to produce alpha peptide, but it is inactivated now due to the insertion of the foreign gene. So even if this vector enters into the E. coli host cell, it cannot produce alpha peptide. It will be having only omega peptide. But you come to another E. coli host cell where the vector gets inserted, but there is no foreign gene in the vector. This host cell will be having omega peptide by itself, and this vector has got intact LAC-Z- gene which will produce the alpha peptide. So this cell will have a fully functional beta galactosidase enzyme. The recombinant cell will not have functional beta galactosidase enzyme. So this is how you screen them. So a host cell which has taken up the vector without foreign DNA insert will be having functional beta galactosidase enzyme because of the presence of the omega peptide of its own and the alpha peptide produced by PUC19. But suppose this host cell has taken up PUC19 with foreign DNA inserted, it will have only the omega peptide. The alpha peptide cannot be produced because it is inactivated by the insertion of the foreign gene. So what we want is a recombinant cell, and this recombinant cell will not be having functional beta galactosidase, whereas a non-recombinant cell which is transformed with the PUC19 vector, it will have intact or functional beta galactosidase enzyme. Now the question is how we are going to monitor whether it has got a functional beta galactosidase enzyme or not. That technique is called as blue-white screening. So this is a technique that allows rapid and convenient detection of recombinant bacteria in vector-based molecular cloning experiments. So I already told you the insertion of foreign DNA will lead to the inactivation of LAC-Z- gene in the plasmid. This is called as insertional inactivation. So, when a plasmid vector containing foreign DNA is taken up by the host E. coli cell, alpha complementation will not occur. It will contain only the omega peptide. So, a functional beta galactosidase enzyme is not produced. Whereas, if the foreign DNA is not inserted into the vector and suppose the vector enters into the host cell, the host cell will be non-recombinant, but in it will already be having its omega peptide, and the lag Z' gene in the vector will produce alpha peptide, and there occurs alpha complementation. There will be production of a functional beta galactosidase. Now, how we screen them? This functional beta galactosidase has got an enzymatic activity. That means it can hydrolyze a substrate which is called as X-gal, and this hydrolyzed X-gal will form a compound called as 5-bromo-4-chloro-indoxyl, which will spontaneously dimerize to produce an insoluble blue pigment which is called as 5,5-dibromo-4,4-dichloro-indigo. In simple terms, if you add X-gal to the medium, a functional beta galactosidase enzyme will take up this, or the E. coli cells will take up this X-gal in the medium, and inside the E. coli cell, if there is a functional beta galactosidase enzyme, the X-gal will be hydrolyzed into 5-bromo-4-chloro-indoxyl, which will later spontaneously form the blue pigment called as 5,5-dibromo-4,4-dichloro-indigo. That means a cell with a functional beta galactosidase enzyme will become blue in the presence of X-gal in the medium. So, we can just predict what will be the color of the two types of cells. We will go back to those cells. That is, this is the cell which has taken up the foreign DNA, which has taken up the vector containing the foreign DNA. And here there is no functional beta galactosidase. So, even if the cell is growing in a medium containing X-gal, it will not produce blue color. Why? Even if the cell absorbs X-gal from the medium, there is no functional beta galactosidase in this cell to hydrolyze X-gal. So, there will be no blue color and the colonies will appear white itself. Whereas, if you are having an E. coli cell which has taken up an intact PUC19 vector without any foreign gene inserted, what will happen? It will have omega peptide as well as alpha peptide. Alpha complementation will occur, functional beta galactosidase will be produced, and this cell is growing in a medium containing X-gal. X-gal will be taken up by the cell. The beta galactosidase enzyme inside the cell will hydrolyze X-gal into blue colored compound, and the cell will appear blue. The colonies will be blue in color. So, in simple terms, the recombinant colonies will appear white and the non-recombinant transformant colonies will appear blue. This is called as blue-white screening. So, here you can see the white colonies. The white colonies are the recombinant colonies and the blue are the non-recombinant colonies because they contain PUC19 vector but without foreign gene. That is why they appear blue in color, because they contain functional beta galactosidase which will convert X-gal into blue colored compound. Now, the vector should also contain one more marker to select the transformants, because you just imagine a non-transformant E. coli cell. That means you are using a host E. coli cell which can produce omega peptide. It cannot produce alpha peptide. And you are trying to insert a vector with a foreign DNA into that cell. Suppose the cell doesn't take up the vector at all. That is what is called as a non-transformant cell. A cell which refuses to take up the vector even with the foreign gene or without the foreign gene. So suppose it is a non-transformed cell. It will contain only omega peptide. So in the presence of XCAL, it will appear white in color. So the recombinant colonies we expect are also white in color, and the non-transformants will also appear white in color. So we will make a wrong selection. That means what we want finally, or we have to pick up the white colonies from this agar plate, because they are the recombinant colonies. We don't want the blue ones to proceed with our experiment. We want the recombinant colonies which are white. They have become white because of insertional inactivation. But the question is, there will be cells which never take up any foreign DNA or any PUC19. They are simply the raw host cells which do not contain the vector. They neither contain the vector nor the foreign DNA. They will contain only omega peptide. So in the presence of XCAL, they will also give white color. So we may confuse between such cells. That means the non-transformant cells and the recombinant cells, because both will have white color. So in that case, we have to eliminate them. We have to screen them in the first step itself. That is made possible through this gene which is called as the ampicillin resistance gene, which will act as a selectable marker for screening transformant cells. So for that, we will go to the structure of PUC19 again. So this is the LAC-Z- gene which produces alpha peptide. With the insertion of the foreign DNA, this will become inactive and it will give only white colored cells. We have one more gene which is called as the ampicillin resistance gene. This gives resistance to E. coli cells against the antibiotic ampicillin. So you just imagine a host cell, a host E. coli cell. As I mentioned earlier, this host E. coli cell normally will not have resistance to ampicillin. So if it is made to grow in an ampicillin containing medium, it won't be able to form colonies because it doesn't have natural resistance to ampicillin. But suppose it is having this vector, it will become resistant to ampicillin. So when you prepare the medium, this medium should contain XCAL as well as ampicillin. So a host cell which has taken up this vector either with the foreign DNA or without the foreign DNA, either case, it will grow in ampicillin containing medium, because this ampicillin resistance gene is intact in both the cases. Here in which the foreign DNA is inserted, here where there is no insertion of foreign DNA. In both these cases, the ampicillin resistance gene is intact. So the non-recombinant cells as well as the recombinant cells, they both grow in ampicillin because they are transformed. That means at least the vector has entered in them. Here at least the vector has entered. Here the vector has entered with the foreign DNA. In both cases, the ampicillin resistance gene is intact there. That means any host cell which has taken up this vector will grow. But suppose you imagine this host cell, it didn't take up any vector, either this recircularized vector or the recombinant vector. Both these vectors were not taken up by this cell. Will it grow in ampicillin? No, because it doesn't contain the ampicillin resistance gene, so it will not grow in ampicillin. So if you are preparing the medium containing XCAL with ampicillin, in the first step itself, the non-transformants can be eliminated. So we will come back to that table. That means there are three types of cells you can expect. The non-transformants which didn't take up any vector, the transformants which take up the vector, the recombinants So these transformants can be non-recombinants as well as recombinants. What are non-recombinant transformants? Which have taken up only PUC19 vector but no foreign DNA. And recombinants are those cells which have taken up the PUC19 vector with the foreign DNA. So we will just go to their behavior and character. First we go to their behavior towards ampicillin in the medium. The non-transformants, as I mentioned you earlier, these are the non-transformants which do not contain the vector. Will they grow in ampicillin? No, because they do not have the ampicillin resistance gene. So they do not grow in ampicillin. What about the transformants? Transformants means those which have taken up the recircularized vector without the foreign DNA and those which have taken up the recombinant vector with the foreign DNA. Both contain ampicillin resistance gene. So they both grow in ampicillin. The transformants as well as the recombinants, they both grow in ampicillin. So the first screening is over where you have eliminated the non-transformants. So this is the first step in which the non-transformants are eliminated. The non-recombinants as well as the recombinants grow in ampicillin. Now, the non-recombinants contain intact vector without foreign gene but with lag Z- gene intact. The recombinants, they have the vector with the foreign DNA inserted. So the lag Z- gene is inactivated by insertion of foreign DNA. So what will the recombinants have? They lack a functional beta-galactosidase. So in the presence of XGAL in the medium, they cannot make a blue color. So they appear white. Whereas the non-recombinant transformants, they contain intact PUC19. They have a hybrid beta-galactosidase enzyme which is functional and they will form blue colonies in the presence of XGAL. So the second level of screening is also over. In the first level of screening, you have eliminated the non-transformants by their inability to grow in ampicillin. So here ampicillin resistance gene acted as the marker for selecting the non-transformants. In the second step, the insertional inactivation of the lag Z- gene helped you in identifying the non-recombinants from the recombinants. The recombinants develop white colonies whereas the non-recombinant transformants produce blue colonies. So what you want to proceed with are the recombinants which form white colonies. Now we will just go to one more requirement in the medium, that is this beta-galactosidase is a part of the lac operon in E. coli and it is the operon activity that results in the production of beta-galactosidase, and beta-galactosidase is an enzyme that metabolizes lactose. So for inducing this lac operon, we require an inducer in the medium and that is lactose. But instead of using lactose directly, we are using an analog of lactose which is called as IPTG or isopropyl beta D1 thiogalactopyranoside along with XGAL. XGAL is the substrate for producing color, but IPTG can be considered to be an analog of galactose which will induce the expression of the lag Z-G. So IPTG is not a substrate but it is only an inducer, but for getting the color you are using XGAL. So the medium should contain IPTG which is an inducer, XGAL which is the color producing substrate in the presence of beta galactosidase, and ampicillin as the marker for selecting the non-transformants. So this is called as blue-white screening, where we select the white colonies as recombinants.